Ah, San Francisco, a meme city if there ever was one. With some of the most expensive rents in the country, and some of the richest people in, let's say, character. If ever there was a city deserving of the title Duality of Man, it's San Francisco. Now before you get up in arms, I want to be clear. I had a great time, and if you visit, so will you. But the elephant in the room is that there are some pretty rough parts of town. And it does leave a weird taste in your mouth riding the peak of human development, a Waymo, through a homeless encampment. Speaking of which, don't abuse the Waymos, don't set them on fire. They will remember. Anyway, this isn't the first time I've been to San Francisco, but it is the first time in about a dozen years, and it's the first time I wasn't there for work. This little trip started back in May, so I apologize for the tardiness of the video. It certainly seems to be a theme for the channel, but instead of flying in or driving in as I've done in the past, I decided to take the train, the California Zephyr. And if you're curious about that, I have a video about that as well. But the pertinent part of that relating to San Francisco is that the train doesn't actually stop in San Francisco, it stops in Emeryville, but you can take a bus provided by Amtrak to San Francisco. And that last little bus ride is about $5, so certainly cheaper than an Uber. That bus drops you off downtown, and from there you're on your own. From there, because I'm cheap, I just decided to walk to my hotel, $60, and it showed. But there was a shower down the hall, there was Wi-Fi, and the bed sheets smelled like curry, so 10 out of 10. The next day, since I was feeling lazy, instead of walking to the rental place, I decided to take a Waymo to pick up the rental car. And I gotta say, the first 5 minutes with no driver are pretty sketchy, but it's pretty shocking how fast I got used to it. And it's even more impressive how fast they react to hazards on the road, and I felt perfectly safe in them. As for the rental car, it was a Hyundai Santa Fe. Truly one of the cars of all time, but perfectly adequate for the trip, and certainly a lot cheaper than the Dodge Challenger I used to drive through Alaska. Since I didn't have to pick up my brother and my parents up until the evening, I decided to kill some time by seeing some of San Francisco's sights. The first of which being Candlestick Park. And it's here I want to talk about that little poo map I showed you at the beginning of the video. First of all, I want to make a note that the city, as far as I could tell, wasn't nearly as bad as that map would lead you to believe. However, I did see it, a couple times, and this park was one of those places. Now I get it, if you're homeless, certain places there's only certain things you can do. I get that. But here at Candlestick Park, there are open latrines, 200 yards away, my dude. Just... what? Anyway, with that out of the way, Candlestick Park is a pretty cool area, and despite what I just said, it actually is fairly clean, and is a great place for taking some photos. The next part of the day, I spent in Golden Gate Park after chowing down on some In-N-Out, as you do, and my god, what a pretty park. Again, oodles of photography options, a very tasteful memorial for HIV victims, and again, interesting characters. For example, one guy who proceeded to ask me about my camera, and upon turning around to leave, muttered that he drank his own blood. Following that, there was another park I wanted to check out across the Golden Gate Bridge, and believe it or not, despite having been to San Francisco several times, this was the first time I've actually seen the bridge. This little trip turned out to be a mistake, because not only was the park closed, I did not realize that on the way back in, the bridge is also a toll road. God damn it. By then it was about time to pick up the rest of the family, and after asking, What are you doing here? Like Stuart, after they got in the car, that was about the day. The next day we mostly just wandered around town a little bit, including Fisherman's Wharf, very touristy. Not a whole lot to say, suffice to say we were killing time until the main event. The reason we were here in the first place. To watch Lord of the Rings The Two Towers with a full orchestra and choir. If I remember right, the tickets were about $250 a pop, and holy crap, they were worth every single cent. I was mildly worried though, as the musicians, in the most San Francisco thing ever, were picketing outside about pay, but if they let it affect their performance, I sure didn't notice. Something else I found a little amusing was that there were people both dressed to the nines and like cheap cosplayers. So if you decide to go to one of these performances, which I highly recommend, it doesn't matter what you wear, you'll be fine. The next day we drove to the Monterey Bay Aquarium, a very nice drive, but on the way back full of traffic because California gonna be California, but still worth the drive regardless. For $65, you can look at little fish, big fish, stingy fish, stringy fish, slippery fish, and birds. Following a couple stops for pictures, and some way too expensive Carl's Jr. on the way back, that was pretty much the day. The next day we didn't really have a particular thing we wanted to do in mind, so we just decided to go for a drive north of town, just to see some of the scenery. And I don't know if you guys know this, but it turns out the California coast is very pretty. It's kind of surprising only 40 million people live here. Following our little drive, we went to dinner at Sausalito for Mother's Day, and it was very expensive. But the food was very good, and the restaurant had very good views. The next day wasn't too special. Dropped off the parents and the brother to the airport and returned the rental car. Then after that, pretty much spent the day wandering down to the Golden Gate Bridge. Saw pretty much every water sport I could think of. Well, except maybe one. Taking pictures, and then wandered down to this pavilion thing, and took even more pictures. Very tourist. Much wow. The next day was my final day in California. Took a Uber to the train station, and started my 30-plus hour ride back to Colorado. Some final thoughts. I know California, and San Francisco specifically, can be very polarizing, but it would be silly to let that get in the way of a good time. And second, I have zero social awareness, but I discovered something that I think might be useful in the future, and I'm going to share it with you, even though it sounds kind of bad. Anyway, if you are in an unfamiliar city, and you are wondering whether or not you need to be worried about the area you're walking through, just look at how many white women are around. If they feel safe enough to walk around, then you should be good too. Anyway, that's all I have for you. San Francisco is definitely a worthy place to visit, even though it is very expensive, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye.